Hi, my name's Sasha, and for the final assignment of our group project, we focused on Hudson's Bay marketing issues. So, just for some background information, the Hudson's Bay firm, founded on May 2nd, 1670, is the world's oldest established joint stock retailing company. For most of its existence, HBC was a fur trading company with a past intertwined with the colonization of British North America and the creation of Canada. Today, the Hudson's Bay is a department store that sells a wide range of products from apparel to furniture. The store's main concentration is on selling products from high-end brands to consumers, although it also offers things from mid-range companies. HBC has had a surge in financial losses in the recent years, resulting in a slew of issues like being unable to pay for rent for all of its retail locations. In addition, they have implemented an e-commerce considerably late than other retailers, have had an abnormal amount of sale campaigns, and have had enabled third-party suppliers to sell items in their online shop. These are all contributing factors to their issues. The purpose of this presentation is to address HBC's marketing issues, which will be done by myself and Andrew, conduct an internal and external analysis done by Monica and Simmer to identify factors affecting the company's current and future performances. Then, to discuss potential solutions for these issues will be done by Lucas, and Nikolai will be making recommendations to help the company better in the future.
Thank you for the introduction, Sasha. As mentioned, my name is Andrew, and I will be going into depth and analyzing the issue diagnosis for Hudson Bay Company. Hudson Bay is a failing business. They're facing tremendous amounts of financial distress. In 2019, in their third quarter, Hudson Bay had $226 million in losses. This finance problem needs to be resolved immediately, or else Hudson Bay may not be able to stay afloat in the long term. The causes behind their finance losses are various. First off, it's important to understand that the in-person shopping experience is dying. Businesses have transitioned to an online e-commerce format. For Hudson Bay, they have been late to do so. And as a result, they are playing catch up and trying to get their online store just as good as their competitors. It also doesn't help that Hudson Bay has also let off 2,000 employees. This has led to operation issues specifically in their digital department. Since they're trying to better their online store and compete with their competitors, this is not the best idea. However, Hudson Bay is losing money, so they don't have the funds to employ these employees, so therefore it should be dealt with in the long term. Another cause behind their financial losses is their sales tactics. Hudson Bay runs large amount of sales promotions. Hudson Bay is already losing money, and these sales promotions are just adding on top of their losses. They should transition to a more cost-efficient sales tactic where they reduce their sales losses instead of increase them. I will now pass it off to Sasha, who will be framing the task. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. I will now be going over the framing of the task for Hudson's Bay. As mentioned previously by Andrew, overall, HBC is a business facing regular losses. The root cause of the business losses are due to its large number of sale promotions which are unobtainable during its financial drought, and HBC's hard to navigate online retail store, and much more. The alternatives presented in this case are based upon a decision criterion. The first criteria is that the longevity of HBC will be increased as a result of the alternative. Second, the alternative can be quickly implemented if resources are available, as HBC needs to change its plan quickly in order to stay afloat. Lastly, the alternative provides HBC with a competitive advantage that allows HBC to surpass its competitors and increase its market share. Therefore, the task that adheres for the company is to cut back on sale promotions, utilize an alternative marketing approach, and resolve the disorganized online store so that customers have an easier and more pleasurable online experience. Now, Monica will be going over the internal analysis.
Thank you for the introduction, Sasha. As mentioned, my name is Monica, and I'll be going through Hudson's Bay's internal analysis, including details of the corporate structure, performance evaluation, and the key organizational strengths and weaknesses. First, we'll take a look into the corporate structure. Originally, Hudson's Bay wanted to focus 2020 as a time to bring style and quality to their consumers with sustainability in the forefront. But this drastically changed in March when the global pandemic was declared, requiring a change of how business was going to be conducted, as well as consumer behavior. From a performance evaluation perspective, Hudson's Bay is doing poorly based on the 2019 third quarter financials. Due to the privatization in March of 2020, financial statements no longer need to be issued publicly, but the effects of the pandemic will greater amplify the trends identified. Sales for Hudson's Bay were down, which was greater amplified in 2020 when the brick-and-mortar stores were forced to close for majority of the year. Hudson's Bay's target market of men and women in their 20s to late 50s offers growth potential as they solidify themselves in their careers. Despite the pandemic's negative effects on retail establishments, Hudson Bay can look forward toward drastic projection in sales with the projection of working back in the office, combined with increased saving rates during the pandemic. The graph on the screen shows that the targeted groups have specifically increased their savings by 115% from 2019 to 2020. This phenomenon causes many experts to project that retail establishments will outperform for the following years to come. Hudson's Bay Marketplace was able to maintain a portion of their operations during the restrictions. This was important for Hudson's Bay as they were able to adapt during the pandemic and focus their attention on their online presence to embody changing consumer needs, bringing more affordable, casual, and size-inclusive options. Despite the potential through Marketplace, the implementation was rushed and often leaves consumers with confusion as to the varied shipping and return policies. This affects brand loyalty negatively, which can lead to poor consumer retention. Without the transparency, in the short term, the marketplace may seem successful, but can have long-lasting negative effects. The debt-to-equity ratio for Hudson's Bay is a major organizational weakness. Liabilities have increased by 47.62% from 2018 to 2020 third quarter. This can cause HBC to become over-leveraged and limit both asset purchases and additional borrowings, which are key to growth. Now I will hand over the presentation to Simmer to go through the external analysis of Hudson's Bay.
Thank you for the internal analysis, Monica. As mentioned, my name is Simmer and I will be walking you through Hudson's Bay's external analysis, which consists of its opportunities and threats, its customers, the channels that it uses, its competition, and the retail industry as a whole. For starters, the most noteworthy external opportunity is technology. Since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, consumers have had to resort to online shopping as a result of the restrictions placed on non-essential businesses. This is an opportunity for Hudson's Bay as they can try to organize their online shop to make it more accessible and more useful for its consumers. By doing so, they can gain a competitive advantage as online shopping is becoming much more popular due to its convenience. When looking at external threats, the main external threat posing the firm is regulatory threats, and this can be broken down into COVID-19 restrictions and increases to minimum wage. While we expect COVID-19 restrictions to hopefully be short-term, increases to minimum wage tend to happen over a longer period of time, meaning that this is a long-term threat for the company because it can increase their expenses. Now we will move on to discussing the company's customers. The main target market for Hudson's Bay is individuals in their late 20s to late 50s and individuals who reside in suburban and urban areas. Also, individuals who want high-branded luxury goods tend to shop here, and because the prices are fixed, there is little to no bargaining power. When looking at the channels that the company uses, HBC is a retailer, meaning that they purchase goods from a manufacturer and then sell them to the ultimate consumer. As a result of this, it is evident that there is an indirect channel present here. We will now discuss the company's competition, and their main competitors consist of companies like Holt Renfrew, Macy's, and Designer Depot. Now, when looking at Porter's 5 forces, we can first start off by talking about competition. The competition in the retail industry is quite high, meaning that HBC does have little power in the industry, which is a potential threat for them. When looking at the possibility of new entrants entering into the retail industry, this is quite low because a lot of capital and resources are required in order to be successful and well established in this industry. This is considered an opportunity for HBC. When looking at supplier power, there is a moderate level of this, which is good for HBC because they are not heavily reliant on 1 or 2 suppliers. Consumer power is also considered low because the target market consists of many small customers, meaning that they have little power within the industry. Now, looking at the threat of substitutes, this is also considered low, which is an opportunity for HBC. Now, looking at the retail industry as a whole, it continues to grow each year, and current trends within the industry is the shift to online shopping. When looking at key success factors within the industry, they include having immense knowledge of products, having profitable pricing policies, and lastly, being able to meet consumer needs. Now, I will be handing it over to Lucas, who will be discussing the alternatives that HBC should consider in order to become more successful.
Thank you, Simmer. As mentioned, my name is Lucas, and I'm going to be presenting some alternative marketing approaches that HBC can use in an attempt to regain some of its lost equity. When I'm going through these, financial statements will appear. They're not obviously to scale of HBC's sales and revenues as such, but they'll give you an indication of the potential effect on the net income based on these scales. So the first alternative I'm going to discuss is the use of visible filters with its website. And what I mean by that is the ability to distinguish between HBC's products sold in store and them sold by a third party. As of right now, the HBC website is not very user-friendly, which drives users away, and the use of these filters can help regain some of its brand distinction like it once had during the Olympics when they sold their gloves and the shirts, etc. The second alternative will be the change of the target market. Currently, HBC's target market is people between ages early 20s and late 50s. This is a very wide range, which of course can be good, can be bad, but in this instance, it's likely driving a lot of people away from their online stores. People in their late 50s are not as prone to online shopping as people in their early 20s. And that's why I'm proposing they change this target market to early teens and potentially early 30s. That range there might give them more exposure to more consumers that shop online, more consumers that spend more time on social media, that type of thing, which will give them more access to these consumers and potentially drive them to their online store. My next alternative will be the use of influencers. As we know in today's society, everybody can be easily influenced by people they look up to. For example, what's LeBron James wearing? What's who wearing? And I think HBC can use this as an attempt to gain consumers by creating relatability with a consumer and their brand. They carry many brands, but they can create that relatability with certain brands that they carry more products of. There's, of course, a financial risk with this, as you'll have to pay the influencers and such, but I think the ability to get access worldwide with things like Instagram and Snapchat, that a lot of people who have the relatability with influencers, like the younger generation, will give them more consumers driving to their online markets. My last alternative will be committing to in-store sales only. And this kind of goes with the do what you know and know what you do idea. As it seems currently, HBC is struggling with its online transition, and I believe they're wasting money in doing so. Committing to only in-store sales and potentially downsizing the amount of stores they currently have, I think will allow them to potentially use some of that money and specify those individual stores. For example, if there's a store that's currently in Brandon, there's more predominantly South Asian people, and they can customize some of these stores to carry more products that appeal to the South Asian society. That's all for the alternatives. Now on to Nikolai for the recommendation.
Thank you for the alternative, Lucas. As mentioned, my name is Nikolai, and I will be discussing which alternative was chosen as a recommendation, why the others were not chosen, the benefits and objectives of the recommendation, and the risks that may be encountered when implementing it. For the recommendation, alternative number 3, use of influencers, is the option that was chosen for Hudson Bay to adopt. Alternative number 1, use of visible filters, even though being a fix for one of Hudson Bay's problems, was not chosen because the benefits gained were not as substantial as alternative number 3. Alternative number 2, change of target market, was also not chosen due to the fact that this alternative would be extremely risky for Hudson Bay to attempt, and they currently lack the resources for them to implement it. Alternative number 4, commit to only in-store sales, would remove the competitive advantage Hudson Bay has by having an e-commerce sector in their company, so it was not chosen as it did not match the decision criteria. In alternative number 3, Hudson Bay will recruit appropriate influencers with large followings that correlate to their target audience and get them to promote their products to their followers on social media platforms. With this strategy, Hudson Bay would be able to solve the main problem with their online stores, which is being able to properly market them and increase traffic. With the increased traffic that would be gained, Hudson Bay's online stores would receive an increase in sales and the exposure that is currently lacking. Additionally, they would also gain a large competitive advantage against their main competitors, as only one of them currently uses this marketing strategy. With the implementation of this alternative, the objectives that Hudson Bay would be trying to accomplish are to increase diversity in their customer base, significantly increase traffic to their online stores, increase sales, and lastly, make a positive return on the marketing investment. Although the recommended alternative has many benefits, it also has potential risks that can be encountered. These risks include the influencers failing to reach their target audience, resulting in an underwhelming change in sales, the marketing strategy not being able to ensure long-term stability, competitors easily adopting the same marketing strategy, and of course, the financial risk of not receiving a positive return on the marketing investment. Now I will hand the presentation back to Lucas to discuss the conclusion.
Thank you, Nikolai, for the recommendation. As we know, HBC is struggling, and a big part of that is their late switch over to online marketing. It is also because of their inability to separate its online presence from its physical stores. This struggle has left HBC in a financial hole, and they're looking for things such as an alternative market approach to help get them out of that hole. HBC currently has implemented a positive work environment, and that allows the employees to help grow the company at a faster rate. HBC operates in a marketplace which has more options for sizes and prices and allows them to reach a larger group of consumers. Despite reaching this larger group of consumers, HBC does struggle with its brand loyalty and should try to maybe create a smaller group of consumers that are more loyal to their company, which will then create more revenue in the long term. HBC can look for different marketing approaches, but they should be evaluated on the basis that they increase longevity, can be quickly implemented when the resources are available to them, and that they provide a competitive advantage that can be not just for the time being, but sustainable if implemented correctly. Now, those alternatives can be the visible filters on their website that help create a more user-friendly experience. They can be the change in the target market to make their target market younger and hopefully gain more traffic because of the youth and their use of technology. It can be the use of influencers and how influencers can create a relatability from a consumer to a product or a brand itself. Or it can be committing to just their in-store sales approach and downsizing and potentially customizing their stores for the society around them. I believe HBC will gain the most success by just using influencers, as they will be able to diversify the consumers and create relatability, which HBC does not currently have.